Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. That's Joe Smith, and this is Paddock/Transfers Live.
Yes.
Because out of transfers season, when it's not the transfer window, we are Paddock Live. However, tonight we are Transfers Live because we've had a bit of breaking news.
Yes.
A big Marcus Rashford story coming out of various outlets. I've seen it on the Mirror, I've seen it in other places as well. That PSG are ready to launch a £75 million sterling bid for Within Shaw's finest. We're going to get into lots of other stories as well. We've got a Mainoo story, we've got some transfer stories about players potentially incoming. Make sure you are getting involved in the chat and hit that like, share and subscribe button. Joseph, initial thoughts on this Marcus Rashford?
Yeah, so let's get into this Rashford story here then.
Juicy story.
Straight up, PSG itching for Rash, very good. PSG are looking towards a future without Real Madrid bound Kylian Mbappe and are preparing a move for Marcus Rashford. Very good pun there from Ethan. PSG are ready to test United's resolve to keep the striker Marcus Rashford this summer with a £75 million bid. The French Giants are ready to launch a second attempt to sign Rashford to replace Kylian Mbappe, who is set to leave for PSG for Real Madrid. PSG made a concerted effort to sign Rashford in 2022 and were prepared to hand the England star a lucrative contract worth a whopping £400,000 a week. PSG are convinced they can take advantage of Rashford's current predicament at United by making a renewed bid to sign him as Mbappe's replacement, with an opening bid of £75 million. United could be tempted by such an offer, although they value Rashford closer to £100 million. This is a very, very interesting story to me, not just because of my opinions on it, the strength of my opinions on it, but also the likelihood of it. It's one of those stories that normally, United play a link with this, their big money move, PSG, whatever, I would blow it off. I would think there's no chance. I think this is possible. And I certainly think that PSG's approach is very possible. And for once, for the first time, I think United's willingness to sell him is probably at the highest it's ever been. And that's, of course, without knowing the inner workings of Ineos, and we'll get into our own opinions on it, but just on the actual likelihood of it, do you feel like this is more likely now than ever before?
I feel like, in answer to your question, yes, it is more likely than it has ever been before. No, I don't think it'll happen.
Right.
The reason I don't think it'll happen is Manchester United, at the minute, have about 5 wingers, maybe 6, yeah? You've got Facundo Palestra, you've got Amad Diallo, you've got Mason Greenwood, you've got Jadon Sancho, you've got Marcus Rashford, and you've got Antony.
Yeah.
Right?
Garnacho. And
Garnacho, right? Of those 7 wingers, forgive me, Garnacho, I love him, so that's an oversight. Of those 7 wingers, 4 of them are unlikely to play for Manchester United again. Yeah. I think, 3. I think Mason Greenwood probably not, for reasons we've already gone over a million times on this channel. I don't need to explain it to you. Facundo Palestra doesn't look like it's happening for him. Amad Diallo doesn't look like it's happening for him. Antony's been a disaster. He might play for United again. I don't think he's got a very bright future at the club, if I'm being brutally honest. Jadon Sancho, I think the club I know he scored tonight for Dortmund and he scored last week. I think he's done at the club. I think they look at him and they go, he's a problem, even if Eric Ten Hag goes. That leaves you Garnacho and Rashford.
Yeah.
And you're going to sell one of them. I don't see it happening. I really don't. And people already in the chat are going to get into it and saying, get that money for him, we can invest it elsewhere. It's a good bit of money, it'll all be profit because he's come through the academy and you know, that means that if you get 75 million for him, that's 75 million in pure profit or whatever, plus he's on big money, so you're getting that wage off the bill. I understand that all, yeah. I also understand the point that he's not having a great season, that he's been a bit of an issue in terms of his trip to Belfast and what have you. He's got 7 Premier League goals this season, which considering last season's return, isn't good enough. However, despite all that, I think you've still got a situation where you have got at least 5 wingers that are worse than him, that are putting up numbers nowhere near his numbers, that are a problem in terms of, are they good enough if you're going to push forward? Probably not. So can the club afford to let go of Marcus Rashford and probably Mason Greenwood as well? I don't see him having much of a future. And probably Jadon Sancho. And also, is Diallo and Palestra, are they really good enough? It's not looking likely, is it?
No.
I just don't see all those moves happening. I think Mason Greenwood goes. I think that Antony as well, I forgot to mention him. I think Mason Greenwood goes. I think maybe Palestra and Diallo end up leaving. Maybe Antony. I'm not so sure just because I think of the amount of money we paid. And also, he's not been here that long.
Yeah.
But I'd be very surprised if the club let Marcus go. I really do. And also, this There's a line here that sort of, take advantage of Rashford's current predicament at United. What is his current predicament at United?
He's having it well. I think.
What is it?
In counter to what you're saying, and these aren't my opinions, but these, I think, are the opinions of, first of all, a lot of people, and second of all, they could be the opinions of Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe. If you look at Marcus Rashford now, and my worry is they will look at him and they will see a guy who, for 2 of the last 3 seasons, has massively underperformed. If you want to take a sort of macro, bigger picture look at it, you'll say, well, actually, 4 of the last 6 seasons, he has very much performed, 20 plus goals in 4 of the last 6. But if you want to look slightly smaller, 2 of the last 3 years, he's massively underperformed. He's one of the biggest earners at the club. He represents pure profit in terms of FFP, which you mentioned. Now, that's not something that is just a one-off thing, because what we have to remember is if we sell him for 75 million, we buy someone for 75 million, that 75 million is now gone and cannot be sort of like brought back again. So you only get one chance to make your pure profit sale of a player. The other thing that's worth thinking about, and that they will certainly be thinking about, is if he has another season like he's had this season and like he had 2 years ago, what will he be worth next summer, when he won't have helped us win a trophy, more than likely, if he continues to play like this, if his reputation has dropped off another notch, if there are if there's another report of sort of wrongdoings off the pitch, if he has another 8-goal season, he might be worth 30 million next year. And then if people are looking at Marcus Rashford and making the conclusion that this is a guy on a downwards trajectory, then you have to sell as early as possible. My worry is, my belief is that he isn't someone on a downward trajectory. He's someone that struggles to sort of assert himself when the rest of the squad is failing and struggling, and he's sort of a guy that kind of is a symptom of the problem rather than the problem itself.
Yeah, I agree.
Rashford, one of his weaknesses, and I do think it is a weakness, is that he can't have a 30-goal year when the team aren't performing. And the top players, Cristiano Ronaldo, the true greats, they are consistent almost every year, no matter what. Look at Salah, look at Kane. They're getting 25 goals a year. Whether Liverpool finish 7th, whether Tottenham finish 6th, sack 3 managers, it's still happening. So I think a limiting factor for him is this problem. But I think if we get enough players around him and we have some real other top players in there, you mentioned the other wingers, our best other option is a teenager who himself isn't doing 25 goals a year. And our striker at the minute is someone who's playing about his 70th professional game when he comes back at the weekend. If we can build up the rest of the team, he can be a massive asset.
Yeah.
And like you've always said, I don't trust us to replace him.
No.
We don't have any track record in Ineos, so I can't really say. But the people who have been there, the scouts and the people above the scouts who've been picking players and buying players for the last decade, have bought Di Maria, have bought Jadon Sancho, have bought, obviously he's not a winger, but they've bought Lukaku, have bought Memphis, have bought Antony, have bought all these people who have done nothing like the numbers that Rashford has done, even this season. Yeah. Antony hasn't hit those numbers, let alone last season. So for me, the idea of selling him is a bad one. And whilst we maybe have to accept the sad truth that maybe Rashford isn't the kind of guy that's going to get you 30 goals a year no matter what, if we play in a good team, the clutch gene that he's got that a lot of players don't have. You look at Lukaku, he's a guaranteed 25 goals a season if you play him every week. But he's not scoring against the top teams. He's not going to win you a trophy. He's not going to score in that final. Rashford will do all of that.
Yeah.
So if we can have a very good team around him and forget this idea that he's going to drag Manchester United back to the top, if he could be a big part of a team that is, I think we've got a top player on our hands. And I just worry that we sell him now, replace him with someone who's all right, we've wasted that profit, and then next time we need to sell them, and then I think it could just be a very slippery slope for United. He's when he's at his best, one of the most likeable players in the United squad. He's had a couple of bad years, but for me, what we saw last season, not many people are doing that. How many wingers across the world, in any of the last 5 years, let alone 2 of the last 5 years, have got 40 goals and assists? It doesn't happen. I just think he's the sort of player we need to rally around, not get rid of.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's easy now. A lot of people. I'm going to get into some of the comments. I know people
already.
Get in
the comments, 'cause it's a
I've
big
seen
one,
it. People saying, just get rid.
Yeah.
Just get rid. Just sell him. We have spent £200 million roughly on the right wing for Manchester United. If you're going to count Sancho as a right winger, if you look at Sancho, you look at Antony, you look at Palestra, you look at Diallo.
Yeah.
We have spent roughly around £200 million, and none of them are good enough. No, the idea that you sell Marcus Rashford for 75 million, you invest that in someone who gets you better numbers than he has. Yeah. I'm just not so sure. I'm really not. And I actually like the front three of Garnacho, Rashford and Højlund. I think that's a good front three. I do. And I'm not saying Marcus isn't without his issues. I think this season he's been disappointing, especially after last season. But do I have faith in the board to replace him? No. Do I think that him, Garnacho and Rasmus Højlund can be an effective front three? Yes. I would like to see us get rid of some of those players I've already mentioned and bring in another option who can rotate with these kids or these guys, because I feel like you've got that front three, and if you lose any one of them, then you're massively weakened. Yep. I think if you lose a Garnacho and you bring in an Antony, or you lose a Højlund and you move Marcus into the middle and put Bruno on the right and bring in a McTominay or whatever, you have to shuffle your pack massively. I think the team suffers. So for me, I wouldn't, but I know that a lot of people would. So I'm going to get into your comments
as well, because
I want to hear why.
Yeah,
why
feel free to disagree with us.
Yeah.
I just, what do you think?
Robbie says 8 seasons, but he's had one good season and a brilliant 3-month spell last year. Outscored in Premier League last year by Wilson, Tony, Salah, and Kane, but world class.
Well, all right. Well, first of all, we're not calling him world class at this second.
No.
Secondly, which one of those players you just mentioned is going to come in to replace him? Outscored. All right. Who are we going to get? What do you want? Wilson? Do you want to swap him for Callum Wilson, a 32-year-old who's constantly
also
injured?
As well.
Or do you think we're going to get Salah or Kane or Tony?
Also as well, I think the point that he was outscored by those players. Other than Callum Wilson, who's been a bit erratic, Ivan Toney's one of the most sought-after strikers in the Premier League. Mohamed Salah is one of the all-time greats, unfortunately. Harry Kane is literally one of the all-time greats as well. So 3 of those players are excellent, and the other one is capable of scoring goals, and had one of his best seasons ever. So I don't know. I kind of get your point, but I think
the idea of diminishing last season as part of your argument to get rid of Rashford isn't the one to go for.
I wouldn't.
Focus on the bad years, not discrediting the good year that was undoubtedly a good year.
Something like this. Conor McCall says, I love Rashford, but I think this club needs a proper clear out and we have to let go of even our current good players. Okay, fair enough. Starlord says, Motti MVP, thank you. Kimchi Cracker says, Garnacho can already replace him. Then you're going to have to move. I think you still need to go out and buy a winger though, don't you? Because on that right-hand side, Garnacho's been playing on the right and he's been doing well there. So if you take Marcus out of the team, put Garnacho on the left, and I love Garnacho, I'm not knocking that lad, then you're going to have to bring in a right winger. You're going to have to. I think...
But also, Garnacho is doing very well, but if you're going to say to me that we can sell Rashford because Garnacho's going to get, what does Rashford average over the last 6 years? 17, 18 goals a season? That's not a fair expectation of Garnacho. And also, we haven't seen that from him. There's no reason to believe that all of a sudden Garnacho is going to triple his numbers. I like him and I think that progression will happen. But it's not fair on him the same way it wasn't fair on Højlund to not bring in a more experienced striker this summer. It's not fair on Garnacho to get rid of Rashford and go, right, you're the new main man up top for Manchester United.
That's the problem with as well. I love Garnacho, but he's a teenager. He's still finding his feet. And there's still an element of we don't quite know for definite what's going to happen with him. And I just feel like, I understand the point about Marcus. His body language isn't great. He's not having the best season. And you probably want a little bit more from him. Definitely, you definitely want more from him. And also, there's been them off the field issues. But I just don't know if getting rid of one of your senior players who can put up good numbers when you've got so many question marks about so many others is the right forward. iPlan says, just stand in a spout and drivel over a valid super chat comment. Okay then, why not focus as a channel on the bad years? We call it as you see it though. If he's having a bad year, we say he's having a bad year. I'm not going to just focus on the bad years.
No, focus on all of the years.
I've been quite critical of Marcus Rashford this season. If you see some of the videos we've done videos just about Marcus Rashford and how he's underperforming. So I don't think we're just focusing on the good. My point is for this, if you're giving me 75 million quid, let's not forget as well what 75 million quid gets you nowadays. Yeah. It gets you Mikhailo Mudryk. It gets you Antony. Yeah. It gets you those type of players who might not be good enough. I mean, even if you want a Jack Grealish, it's 100 million quid now. I know Jack Grealish is a good player, but even he's not got Marcus numbers. 75 million isn't a guarantee you go out and you get that world-class superstar. It used to be back in the day, but not anymore. I think you've got to have, if you are going to do it, you've got to have a plan where you go, this is what we're going to spend the money on. And also, you've got to spend that money on someone who is relatively proven. Yeah. If you were to say, we can get Ivan Toney for 75 million, let's say, for example, and we want Ivan Toney, so this is why we're going to do it. Now, I don't think that quite makes sense because Rasmus Højlund is your striker, so there's probably an issue there. But if that was your point, I understand it. But if you're just going, let's get to 75 million and then we'll look and see who we can get.
Yeah.
I think you might be in trouble there. I honestly do.
Yeah, me too.
Just a couple more comments before we move on. Elliot 2 says Rashford isn't even looking like a nearly complete player. Wesley Reven says the 75 million is based on current form. If they came in for him last season, it would be 120 million. Jim Mack said, Boss, I don't know what Jim Mack's saying there about less than a million. Boss says he's not worth 75 million, so snatch that cash ASAP. A lot of people's willing to just get rid of him.
He's not 75 million if you're comparing him to Ronaldo going for 80 million, like you said, from United to Real Madrid. But he is worth 75 million if you compare him to Antony or Mudryk or Enzo Fernandez or, you know, Harry Maguire or, you know, there's a lot of people who, by comparing him to them and their transfer fee, he's worth way more than 75. And like you said, we have to replace him. It's not like you go, what we're swapping him for, a better player. We're getting money to then spend on someone that needs to be better. Who do you get in? You know, maybe we can find a bargain for 35 million and we can put the other 35 million towards a new right back or whatever you want to do. But you have to, we have to field a squad next season, and ideally it has to be better than this season.
First of all, Vicky, Vicky Whitterbird 84, thank you, Vicky, a friend of the channel, has gifted 5 Paddock memberships.
Thank you very much.
Superb at gifting memberships, I really do appreciate it. There's extra content on the member section, so if you're lucky enough to snatch one of the memberships up, go and check out that. I love this from Ewan438. You're forgetting we have Martial to come back.
Oh, that's true, sorry,
Good
yeah.
point,
Get rid
well
of Rashford
made,
immediately.
my friend.
Sell him. I'll drive him to Paris myself, as they say.
Cheeky.
Right, let's move on then to the next story there. Brazilian nut leaving. Brazil nut. Thoughts?
Okay. What happened? The other one was better.
The other one was better.
Why did you get rid of the other one? No. We liked it.
He ran another pun past us because obviously the sensitive nature of this story. And Ethan ran a different pun past us that was slightly better, but Ethan thought that maybe
we thought we'd go with the mental health one rather than the one about prison.
Yeah, that's true. Here we go. The ongoing police investigation surrounding Antony could scupper plans to sell the Brazil international this summer.
Yeah, that's what's going to scupper the plans, not the fact he's terrible at football.
Greater Manchester Police and Sao Paulo Civil Police are still probing the assault allegations against Antony made by his former girlfriend Gabriela Cavallin, which the player strenuously denies. United are understood to be open to selling Antony this summer, though they are not thought to be actively looking to push the £85 million winger out of the door at this stage. That could change depending on what happens with the future of manager Erik ten Hag. Sources have indicated the assault allegations against him present a major obstacle to a potential sale.
I mean, we've had Telegraph journalists on, and I think there's some very good journalists there, and I'm not saying that they're not right, but that is such an obvious thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, that last sort of sentence, sources have indicated the assault allegations against him present a major obstacle to a potential sale. No shit.
Yeah.
Are we going to buy him? Well, he has got a court case for potentially assaulting his missus, or his ex-girlfriend, sorry. Oh, we might not bother then.
Yeah, I think the funny thing is,
obvious.
You say it's obvious, but United didn't care. Or didn't
That's a very good point.
Or didn't make, it didn't stop us buying him. And I think that's because we didn't know it was happening.
I think now, though, everyone knows.
But of course, everyone knows.
Because once you play for Manchester United as well, you're in the spotlight.
Think whoever this source is probably from the United team who didn't think to look into whether he had
Marcus
any criminal
Rashford,
charges against him.
We signed him and he had that court case for allegedly swatting his next door neighbour with a bottle.
Yeah.
And it was like, we'd signed him. And then, do you remember? Because I used to be in a press conference with Louis van Gaal, and everyone was like, where's Marcus Rashford? And he was like, oh, it's the work permit. The work permit has been postponed because he's got a court case pending that we didn't know when we signed him. It's ridiculous. Listen, I've made my feelings clear on Antony.
Yeah.
I don't know about these allegations. He's denying him, so he's innocent until proven guilty, right? I don't think he's good enough as a footballer for Manchester United.
Yeah.
I've not seen anything that's convinced me otherwise. And I don't see how this has a happy ending for him at the club. I think even the manager that brought him in doesn't seem to rate him. Doesn't even rate him as a backup. Yeah. He'll happily move Bruno to right wing than playing the guy he spent 85 million quid on. Yeah. A new manager coming in who didn't buy him, I cannot see him fancying him. So I think either way, Antony's almost done. And there's big moments in a player's career at United. And I just felt like that game at Molyneux where he came on and nearly cost us the game. I felt that was just like a moment for him where it became less of an argument that, oh, you can bring him on, he'll keep hold of possession, which is one of the arguments I was making on the watch along at the time. Yeah. And he can be, he offers you a little bit something, to a point of, can you even give him a cameo? Like this kid just seems. And listen, say this one thing. I hope he proves me wrong. And I hope he starts proving me wrong on Sunday against the Scousers. I hope he bags a hat-trick, but I just don't see it happening. I'm going to go through some of the chats and I'll get your thoughts as well, my brother.
Yeah.
Nuruddin has gifted 20 Paddock memberships.
Bloody hell, thank you very much.
I tell you what, I did this on the brew. Nuruddin, thank you for your support.
Thank you very much.
Massive. We have got, what's the latest video we did on the old members section? It was, sorry? It was the top 11 seasons post Alex Ferguson or the bottom 11 seasons.
All ranked.
They were ranked, so we went through we ranked each season post Fergie, what we thought was the best one, why we went into it. It wasn't just when we finished higher, it was better than when we finished lower. There was different
some
seasons.
Surprising inclusions in
where we won certain trophies, certain seasons that had certain results in there, certain runs we went on, players that shone, all that jazz. So go and check that out if you are one of the newly acquired memberships. Thanks to Witterbird 84 Vicky and Nuruddin. Thank you to you. Matthew Wiggins says, Antony really is a black mark against Eric Ten Hag's name. Really wanted him. Club spent big, and that might end up costing him his job. Hope not, but it might.
It's a shame, this, isn't it? And I get, obviously, your judgment as in the transfer market is a part of being a manager. But I think the Maguire transfer was not obviously the only thing, but a substantial point against Solskjaer that sort of one of the many snowballs that in the end cost him his job. I do think that what you spent 80 million quid on a centre-back and he's not good enough, hugely counted against Solskjaer. And I do think that Antony is hugely counted against Ten Hag. And I get why. Obviously, managers have a say in who they buy, especially in this case. He knows him. He thought he was good enough for the league. He thought he was good enough for Man United. For one reason or many reasons, he isn't. But also, we were talking before, and you think a lot of the great signings and great players, especially in the modern era when managers aren't director of football anymore like they were in the 90s and before, they are coaches. Some of the greatest signings in Premier League history weren't done by the manager who got the best out of them. Like you always say, Salah wasn't Klopp's choice.
He wanted Julian Brandt,
yeah,
and that's what Jamie Carragher said on the overlap.
De Bruyne, was he joined Pep at the same time, didn't he? Or he even came the year before?
I think there was a rumour, the sort of the common reports were that City knew they were getting Pep
and picked De Bruyne to go with him,
but they got him for him.
Yeah,
similar to Sterling did the same thing for him.
So this is the sort of thing of, the club doing right by the manager rather than the manager having to pick up a team and a player themselves. One hand, yes, you can criticise him. He clearly misjudged it. He got it wrong. And paying the money he did, I don't believe is Ten Hag's fault. But on the other hand, I think a well-run club would not have made this transfer regardless of what the manager said.
And also, I think, I get your point about Maguire and Ole, and in the end it was. But even on that one, I think that for a while it looked like it was going to work out.
Yeah,
it did. If Maguire didn't
get good seasons there. Where
if Maguire didn't get an injury in the second season, or if we'd have got a DM that we should have got, it might have been a different story. I've just never felt this one.
No,
me and you stood here or in there 2 years ago, and we were talking about Antony, or 18 months ago, whatever it was. And if I don't know a lot about a player, I'll look at the numbers, and the numbers didn't make sense to me. He played like 41 games and scored, 8 goals and 4 assists?
Yeah.
In a team that dominated possession, that dominated games, that won every game almost. And you thought, those numbers aren't that clever. Now, you pointed out, right, that defensively he was very useful. He'd trap back, he'd get stuck in, he'd do the other bits of his game. But you thought, okay, fair enough. But then when you saw that we signed him for 80 million, we were scratching our heads a bit, weren't we? It was like,
it was always
not seeing anything. Yeah, not seeing anything here.
Desperation though, wasn't it?
Well, you're right. It was
2 games
Casemiro
into
was
the season.
desperation,
It's silly.
and Antony was desperation, and it's been a bit of an horrible transfer, this one.
It has.
From top to bottom. Even I'm not saying you should, but even when you take away the allegations and all the other stuff, just based on the football side of things, it's been terrible.
Yeah.
But when you throw this into the mix, that just makes it even more so. It's just disastrous.
Yeah.
Go on then, my brother. Go on, next one.
Yeah, next up then, and this is another interesting one. It's another new name that's been brought in, and this is by The Independent, or iNews, as they call themselves. United to splash out on old lady. Now, hold. Adam's just got his head in his hands.
Adam.
Ethan stood there. I don't know if he's sort of looking down, but he's kind of half smiling. He's got a goatee. He's got his
what sort of pun is this? Splash out. What does that mean?
Splash out on an old lady.
Are you being sexual?
If you didn't hear, Ethan said, spunking and that. I thought that's what you meant. Yeah. Manchester United plot a double centre-back swoop this summer with £43 million Bremer top priority. The Brazilian Juventus defender is United's #1 target if they can overcome his wage demands and competition from Real Madrid. Manchester United have made signing a centre-back a top priority in the summer, with Juventus defender Bremer high on the wish list alongside Everton's Jared Branthwaite. The 26-year-old Brazil international only signed a new deal in Turin late last year, but insiders have revealed to that the contract included a €50 million release clause. Everton are reportedly looking for at least $75 million for Jared Branthwaite, but United are aiming more for the £50 million mark, given his relative inexperience at the highest level.
I'm not too keen on this one, I ain't gonna lie to you.
What, the pun?
Yeah, no, not that. No, this kid, I don't, right, this is the most basic argument ever, right? How old is he? He's 26 years old. He's got 3 caps for Brazil.
Yeah.
I mean, who is it? Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
He's one of those players who I think is slowly developing a decent reputation. He's not a big name by any means, but that's sort of reflected in his price.
I get it. And people shouting at me now going, Jay, you obviously don't watch Juventus, he's mint, rah, whatever, yeah? This to me seems like a big gamble, you know. It does. And also, Brazil are fucking shite. And if you've only got 3 Brazil caps nowadays and you're 26 years old, then you're not very good.
Who's playing centre-back for Brazil at the minute?
I don't know. Is Thiago Silva still playing for him? Is Gabriel's out probably? He's Gabriel. But even so, come on, man. Like
Marquinhos.
Like, we just slagged off Antony, and he's got a lot of Brazil caps, hasn't he? And you know, Pereira's got 1. Like, I don't know. I worry slightly. And if you know more about him, then let me know. Let me know how wrong I am, because I'm as you may have gathered, I'm not someone who watches a lot of Serie A. So he might be really good. I'm sorry.
It might be worth splashing out on an old lady for him. But he's one of those players that's sort of slowly picking up a bit of a reputation. I think Juve have had a good year this year. I know they're well off into now, but they've had a better year by their recent standards.
Yeah. Well done for holding it together, so apologies.
I think he's piecing together a little bit of a reputation. But he's the sort of player that I would like. Not him in particular, but someone where I don't go, oh, who are we signing? Everton's best young player. Who are we signing? City, like fucking Brighton's best.
Do you know what worries me about this as well?
Go on.
Like, me and you were chatting before, and I think you mentioned about Canate. Took a little while to get going, now he looks the business. Gabriel's another one at Arsenal.
Shocking.
Came in.
Not shocking,
I thought, really? Even last season was okay. Yeah. This season, he looks mint. Looks really good. And it's like, might need a season or 2. Is he going to get a season or 2 at Manchester United? Maybe, maybe not. I don't think you're afforded that patience, especially when you're 26 as well.
The other thing as well we have to remember.
That's just the problem we've got at United. We just don't do it with players. You don't go, oh, he's taking it. It'd be like, if he's 27 and a half and he's still playing shit for United, it'll be get rid of him and go and spend 100 million on Branthwaite.
I know.
It's just the way we are.
I do think as well that the team you come into is so important. I know we always say this and people want it to be the case that, you know, the right guy can fix Manchester United. But this is a bigger thing. This is a bigger situation. That, you know, you look at Gabriel. Fair enough. One of the reasons they're doing so well is because he's doing so well. I get that. But also, one of the reasons he's doing so well is because everyone around him is doing so well. Yeah. Because Saliba's very good. Because the midfield in front of him are excellent. Because they've got a very strict and very structured style of play. They're all playing with perfect confidence. Do you know the year that Rio Ferdinand went to QPR?
Yeah.
And just, you know, he speaks about it, everyone speaks about it, he was poor. It was poor by his standards, it was poor by anyone's standards. If he'd have been at United for that season and Fergie was still there, do you think he would have been as bad as he was at QPR? No. He just wouldn't.
No.
Things around you sort of lock you in, you're secure, you're playing with more confidence, you're more of the ball, you're playing better. Like, if he went and signed for Arsenal now, there is no doubt in my mind he would look a decent centre-back, if not better.
Yeah.
Whereas if he played for United from the start of this season onwards, he would look like a shit centre-back. The whole problem at United and the whole thing that Ineos need to fix and Ten Hag need to fix is bringing everyone up slowly and not hoping for a quick fix that's going to turn things around, because it isn't. We have to slowly build things, and someone like him could be, could very well be the right kind of player if everything else is working. We've just got to get that momentum going. It's really hard to do that.
You always mention it about Akanji at City, and you can even throw Nathan Ake into that mix. I thought Nathan Ake was all right at Bournemouth. Yeah. I don't think he was he didn't strike me as a Champions League winning defender. Manuel Akanji at Dortmund, he looked okay, looked good. At City, he looked pretty amazing at times. Nathan Ake. Sometimes you're going into, like you say, you're going into that environment. At United, you might not be given that sort of environment. You might not be. You might need someone who's used to the Premier League to come into this side. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Let me have a look. Let me know what you think. LE2 says he's a man of the match candidate for Juve, I think, at times. I mean, he might be very, very good. Junior Hussein agrees with you. Says, well said, Joe. Philip Glover says, I'd rather have Branthwaite. Chris Griffith says, today
every time someone says Branthwaite, I think Bramflakes. It's going to do my head in if he signs for example. I'm going to think, 75 million quid on Branthwaite. I'm going to think that fucking constantly. I can't bear it already.
Marco Macanel Hine says, Jay, could you try the Douglas Luiz shimmy again? Sorry, lost it there with producer Ethan and his spunking and that.
Right. Move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
What we got next?
Hopefully no filth.
United want Merino so bad. Oh. That's a pun on Sociedad, that one.
Right, okay. Yeah, all right, I see. I don't know.
You could have gone for a sort of merino wool pun.
What?
Eh? Merino wool.
You what?
Merino wool.
What's merino?
A type of wool.
Yeah, he could have, and everyone would have fucking got that one.
It would have made sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so the grandma's watching.
United will.
We have a nice wool pun.
United will.
Fucking hell.
Merino wool. It's like the past tense to will, isn't it? He wooled me to do it. United are closely following the performance of Real Sociedad Mikel Merino Wool, the Spaniard who will celebrate his 28th birthday. I love that. We already know that he's not having a quiet one. He's fucking going for it on this 28th birthday. He will celebrate his birthday with a grand ball this summer. He's out of contract at Sociedad in June 2025, meaning this forthcoming summer's transfer window could represent an opportunity for a cut price deal. The former Newcastle United player, what? Former Newcastle United player.
Do you remember him?
Yeah. How good was he out of 10?
Oh God, don't ask him. Who was that lad? Is it Hayden Summit? Isaac Hayden, who played 12 games for Newcastle in about 3 years. And we asked producer Ethan if he's any good. And he said, in his words, he's fucking class. Right?
He's class, Isaac Hayden.
Yeah,
what, is that why he never played for you and you
That's why he's ended up at Norwich.
So you probably think he is as good, if not better, than Zinedine Zidane, don't you? Did you love Marino?
Did you really?
What did you like about him? Technically brilliant.
Technically
Why did you
brilliant.
get rid of him? Because you were still playing Mike Ashley ball.
He wanted to leave because he didn't play enough.
He wanted to leave because he didn't play enough games. Anyway, let's keep moving. Reportedly has a £51 million release clause in his contract. Other clubs such as Atletico Madrid, Juventus and Manchester City have been credited with interest in his signature. That's a Google Translate if ever I've seen it. Merino has made 181 appearances for Real Sociedad and has featured 19 times for Spain. Interesting. 28 years old. You would think that for me, 51 million quid seems a lot for this guy. Now I know for a fact that he's someone that is quite highly regarded actually. I think he's very well rounded. I think he's meant to be technically very good. I've not seen a lot of him, but I've seen what people who have seen him have said about him. And I think he's considered to be a very sort of neat, tidy, technical, like Ethan said, central midfielder who, again, I think one thing that we talked about with Bremer, has a lot of confidence at the minute. I think he's building this reputation and is someone that is quite, like I said before, highly regarded. He'd be coming at a good time, but 28, he's not young. 50 million quid is certainly a gamble.
Can I just give you the most basic argument ever that doesn't even really make sense, but I'm going to say it no matter what.
Yes then.
A 28-year-old almost, because apparently he's going to have a party in the summer.
Well, let's put it this way. He's going to celebrate his
having it
birthday, okay?
The social club.
He's going to put June. Paul Gascoigne to shame with the celebrations.
He's 27 and a half. He's 27 till he's 28.
Yes.
He didn't get games at Newcastle. Newcastle, that's not even a word. Newcastle, little buckle.
That's what Ethan used to. I want Newcastle. When he was a little toddler, that's how Ethan used to talk.
When Newcastle were busy finishing 10th under Rafa Benitez, this guy wasn't good enough to get in the team. He was 22. All right, he wasn't a child, right? He was 22. He wasn't. He's at Sociedad, who are a decent Spanish team.
Yes,
but they're not amazing.
No.
It smells a little bit like Sofian Amrabat to me. It smells a little bit like this is a decent midfielder in a decent team who isn't setting the world alight, and his team aren't setting the world alight, and no one's really giving him, he's not really shone at a big team before. Yeah. He's been around the middle sort of echelons of football.
Yeah.
And now he's going to come at United and suddenly be mint.
Yeah.
I just don't see it.
Yeah,
and I know they're not, it's not necessarily logical what I said, but it just feels like that. It feels like another one of them.
In terms of counter arguments, I know obviously 27, which is what is the age he is. Let's be honest, he's 27 years old. Isn't young, and there are a few sort of notable kind of people who joined top clubs when they were slightly older who were still a success. Wijnaldum at Liverpool. Fernandinho didn't arrive at City till I think he was 28 or 29. I think Fabinho was 25 when he joined Liverpool, so he wasn't 28, but he was not a young kid either. I get your point though, but one thing that often counts against people is having a failure on the CV. And his time at Newcastle, whether or not he's gone on to bigger and better things, was a failure really. He went to a club, didn't succeed, and then moved to a different club. It is one of those where I don't know enough about him, and I don't think most fans of United will know a lot about him, and I don't know who's scouting these players at this point. Is this Ineos? Is this Ashworth? Who is this? Because if it's the old lot still picking up their names that we've seen for the last sort of 2 years, because the new lot haven't come in yet, I don't trust it, because the signings on the whole have been poor.
Now, also as well,
I hope he's good though.
I think you're looking at United at maybe a 3-year, maybe even a bit longer till we win the title, challenge for a title, if being honest. I mean, might be in a scenario where you end up having to replace this kid in a few years. Yeah. So, I don't know, I think we need to think a little bit more long term. Yeah. For me, I get your point about Fernandinho. Yeah. Fabinho, to be fair, was raved about by a lot of people. I remember the rumours.
He was when he was at Monaco.
Yeah, loads of people talk about Fabinho, but I get your point. It does feel a little bit like, and again, I keep using that word, another gamble. And it's like, can we afford to bring in another midfielder who isn't quite good enough? I feel he might. I feel he might be just the level below what we need. Right. I feel we need a player who is much better than, say, putting McTominay in that role or putting Eriksen in that role. Not someone who is maybe marginally better or the same. That's my opinion anyway. Get involved in the comments and let us know what you think. Glazers Out says, let's scout Newcastle players. AYTV says, remember Saul Niguez links? Stephen Alston absolutely dreamed of. He was
so bad for Chelsea, wasn't he?
He was literally one of their worst ever players, and that's saying something considering some of the shite they've had.
Right, let's move on then. Mason Mount, mountain out of molehill. That's quite good actually. Yeah. That works because it actually, the pun works with the story. So this is an interesting one. So this is the story, and it's out of the MEN, and it's almost, for me, it's the story itself that's kind of in the stocks or whatever it's called today. I want to get into the story, but as much as you think about the context, think about the story. So several injury setbacks have restricted him to just 12 appearances in all competitions. Fair enough. His last coming against Luton in November, before he was injured in training. A source close to one of the United players, and this is the mad bit, claims that the deal was not for football reasons. Furthermore, United staff said Mount was sensitive about his Chelsea exit, noting that he hasn't done any media outside of the club's official channel since joining. The United number 7 missed their 2-1 win over his former club in December due to injury, with a section of the Travelling Blues supporters referring to him as some nasty names. This line here, a source close to one of the United players claims that the deal was not for football reasons. What does that mean? And unfortunately, the rest of the article doesn't go on to suggest or hint at what those reasons could be. It's sort of nonsense, that, isn't it? What does that mean? What could those reasons be?
This whole story, just stinks of garbage to me. Honestly, this is just. We need 300 words on Mason Mount. Yeah, leave that with me. I've got this. Do you know what I'll mention? I'll fill half of it with the fact that Chelsea fans called him a tit and a wanker. Yeah. Yeah, nice one. That's relevant to this story, isn't it? Like what former club slags off player that's joined their rivals. Yeah. Wow, make that the fucking headline. What is this? It's just nonsense, this. And also, United staff said Mount was sensitive about his Chelsea exit. Yeah, because he was a Chelsea lad. He came through the academy. Yeah. Noting that he hasn't done any media outside the club's official channel since joining the Red Devils. He's been injured for most of that time anyway. So I don't want to see him popping up in the Daily Mirror giving interviews or fucking 442 or sat on the cover of GQ talking about how he's wearing the number 7 shirt in bed. He's not playing for us. So why don't you focus on that? He's only just got back into training, and the first story we see out and about him, is one about how we didn't buy him for football reasons. What did we buy him for?
I don't know. And this is one of those things,
the calendar.
I would always like it when these sorts of articles are being written for them to say that, what they mean. Even if the suggestion and implication is so obvious that, you don't really need to say it, but I think for the sake of journalism, you should say it anyway. This one, I have got no idea what reasons we could have bought him for other than footballing ones, and it still doesn't say. Do you have any idea what that could even mean? Like, genuinely, what is it like because he's English or commercial reasons? Like, what's the implication here? I don't actually get it. Do you? What are the reasons?
I think it's the fact that, he's really good at sort of making a brew or painting or cleaning, so he can get him to do other jobs around Carrington, not just football reasons. It's meaningless. Yeah. You've got to qualify it. If you're going to say something like that, he was brought in due to commercial reasons. He was brought in due to team morale because he was a popular figure in the England camp.
Exactly.
Or whatever, even that's slightly football. But you could put in, he was brought in because he's English. He was brought in because, it was just placate the fans because they thought we need a marquee signing and Andre Onana ain't filling that gap. That I understand, even though I don't agree with it. But just to say this vague nonsense, and also a source close to one of the United players, what the fucking hell does that mean?
So that could be Facundo Pellistri's nan thinks that he was brought in for non-footballing reasons. And he could easily say, it wouldn't be difficult to write without even being definite. You could say, a source close to one of the United players claims that the deal was not done for footballing reasons, with some suggestions or some in the media suggesting that it could have been to focus on his homegrown sort of quote or whatever. I need to draw your attention to another line in this article. By
Am I reading this?
Right, let me read it out. So we haven't got it. Can you just drag it to the right of the screen so I can read it more easily, please, Ethan? This is the article that this comes from. So it says, this is the opening line of the article, and it says, the Ineos directors Sir Dave Brailsford and Tom Crotty sat a couple of dozen yards to Mason Mount's left at Old Trafford on Saturday. Their arrival should not cause Mount to shift uncomfortably in his seat just yet. The next line, and I swear to God, this is what it says. No, that's not a doctored picture by Kate Middleton. Mount really is back in a United training after more than a 4-month layoff. A playing return could be delayed until after the spring internationals. What the fuck is Kate Middleton being brought into this article?
You know, when I read that, I wish I was dead. Honestly. I can't do this anymore. I can't.
Oh, fucking hell. You're done with that shit. What is that?
That just makes me want to stop breathing.
Do you know when you read, do you ever read like Take a Break magazine or one of those magazines?
Yeah, I used to send stories to them.
Yeah.
There's a reason behind this. When I worked for Bauer Media, we worked for the radio station, and if you had a little local interest story like a mum who gave birth to 5 babies,
that makes more sense.
We had magazines like Closer and things like that. They used to do human interest stories. It was like usually uplifting ones, not like I married a serial killer or whatever. Yeah. It'd be like I met my long lost husband or whatever, and
he was a dog.
He was a dog, that kind of
it's
thing.
Always a dog.
Yeah, it was always like that kind of stuff.
So those sorts of magazines, because their main audience is, let's say, middle-aged women or a largely female demographic, when they'll do things, or the people who they think are into the Royals or whatever, they'll do something where like occasionally they'll write a sports article in there, but because they have to make it pander a little bit to their normal audience, they'll put in a reference to Kate Middleton, who all of our audience love and care about. That's like the fucking, like that article's being written for royalists, but who happen to want to know this small thing about Mason Mount. Why the fuck is that in there?
I don't know. Did ChatGPT write this article or something?
I think that's his name.
It's just like, give me 300 words on Mason Mount and somehow get the trending topic of the day in there as well.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's Kate Middleton doctoring that photo, so we'll get that one in there. And also, because we've got bugger all to say about Mason Mount, let's put in about the fact that Chelsea fans called him a tit and a wanker, and let's say a source close to a player, just to make it sound like we've spoke to someone who might be ITK, when in fact we've got a computer to write this for us. What a load of absolute garbage.
Right, let's move on, shall we? Or I've got some comments in there as well. Before we go to the
Boss
next
says
story.
Mount was a weird Eric Ten Hag signing, so was Antony. Lol. Dylan N says Mount was brought in because he looks like he likes the Royals.
Okay, there you go. That's why Middleton's involved.
Wesley Raven says word count padding like writing essays at school. It does feel like that, doesn't it? It just feels like bloody hell. Here we go. Anyway.
Let's move on to our next story. This is Catalonia.
Oh,
More like, yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Subtle, it's quick, to the point. Barcelona have distanced themselves from a move for Mason Greenwood. Basically, it's from ESPN. I think it's, it sort of speaks for itself there. Sources, they're finding potential suitors still have concerns surrounding the criminal investigation which ended his career at Old Trafford. Sources have told ESPN that a permanent departure in the summer remains the most likely outcome. We want around 40 million quid.
Can you believe that triumvirate of Martial, Greenwood and Rashford that we all had such high hopes for, didn't we, under Ole? 60 odd goals between them that season. All very young. I think he was a teenager.
Yeah, he was.
Marcus was early 20s, Martial early 20s. You think, finally, we've cracked the code. This is going to be our front three for the next 10 years. And then within 3 years, it's all over, innit?
Yeah.
I mean, Marcus is still here, he's still got a future, but there's talk of him going to PSG. This guy I don't expect to see playing for Manchester United ever again. No. Antony Martial, I'd be very surprised if he plays more than 2 games for Manchester United ever again. It's just, for different reasons, I hasten to add, it's just really sad and disappointing the way this has panned out.
Yeah.
As a United fan, when you looked at those 3, I thought, yes, this is it, and it just ain't.
No, I think we can move on.
I think
we'll keep you
nailed it,
updated with any of the moves for Mason Greenwood. Anything that happens there, we'll obviously keep you abreast of any of that. So if he does go somewhere, and once it finally, we do hear word that it's not someone's distancing themselves, it's actually someone who's going in for him, we'll of course let you know. Should we move on to our next one? Lovely little graphic here, looks nice, that well put together there, Ethan. Of Mainoo, Manchester United prodigy. Mainoo got some good news and bad news. The bad news is he's set to miss out on getting a first senior England call-up. The good news, if you're him, I know you don't care, the good news is...
You've been promoted.
You've been promoted, you're going to be playing for the under-21s.
You're still thinking about the bad news.
You're also thinking about not getting the full call-up, aren't you?
Yeah.
What do you think of that? It looks like he's going to be called up for the England under-21s. For the first time as well, he's been playing for the under-19s, or he's played for them, going up to the under-21s. Do you think it's too soon for the full squad? Do you think that this is a stepping stone for maybe a summer kind of inclusion? Or do you think this is basically Southgate saying, you've done well, we don't want you to play for Ghana, but there's still a way to go yet?
I don't mind this too much. I think it would be nice to sort of tread carefully with Mainoo.
Yeah.
Because he's just been thrown in the United team. He's now a regular for United. He starts practice every game. And some games he does look a little bit leggy. I feel like we're just throwing him in at times when he could do the breather.
Yeah.
He's still developing. He's physically still developing. And he's not just been put in a team. He's been put in... As someone said, Wayne Davies says, hashtag butter him up. Corn on the cobby, butter him up. That was the worst pun we ever had.
Worst pun we've ever
It was
had.
just completely...
It was essentially about the same thing.
It was complete nonsense.
No.
Corn on the cobby, butter him up, yeah. And I lost it then. I couldn't get it out of my head. I couldn't function as a human being. Yeah, I don't mind being a little bit cautious. I don't particularly rate Gareth Southgate. I think he's a pretty bang average manager. I'm not that enamoured of United players going away with England anyway, because they always seem to get shit. And if he costs us a game, then he'll probably get racist abuse, knowing what happened to Sancho and Marcus Rashford. I do think he's a phenomenal talent, though. If it was just going off ability, he'd be in the England 11, in my opinion. He should be in there ahead of Jordan Henderson, ahead of Calvin Phillips, thank you. I'd have him in there alongside the likes of Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham, but I've got no qualms about waiting because he's got a very, very bright future ahead of him, and I don't mind it. No, we're not overdoing it. That's my...
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this is a fair sort of trajectory for him. He's come in, and I think that one thing that we can say about the England first team squad for the first time in a long time is, rightly or wrongly, there is a consistency there, and there is a sort of understood team there. And whether or not he's better than Jordan Henderson or Calvin Phillips, which I think he is, I can't see Southgate tweaking that starting 11 at this point before a major tournament.
Do you know that midfield I think works so well together though if you did give him a chance?
Rice, Mainoo and Bellingham.
I think that's fucking elite.
Yeah, me too.
I do. I just think the balance, you're right, it works, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It really does, but we can wait and see. And also, they're all relatively young, aren't they? It's not like
Whole team's
this is the
Except
only
the centre-backs.
tournament. Yeah, I think you can have that midfield three, for the next 7 or 8 years. So hopefully they'll get his chance, but we can wait. We're going to wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone who got involved in the comments. Thank you to Nuruddin and to Witterbird for donating those memberships as well. Go and grab one of them if you can. If you've got one as well, go and check out the extra content we've got on the members section. I'm going to be back in the morning outside Old Trafford for the news. Then me and him and Mr. Stephen Howson are going to be back in the afternoon for Off the Bar. So make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. Go and check him out as well on the Sloppy Joe's podcast.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you.
Good
You too,
stuff.
sir.
Big thank you to producer Ethan and Adam as well, who's been involved in some of those puns.
Great stuff.
Very, very funny tonight, lads. Well done. That's been Joe Smith. I'm Jay Moy. This has been Transfers Live. Thanks for watching.